Today we're going to talk a little bit about animal handling safety, particularly as it deals with the mechanical equipment associated with animal handling. I'm Dr. Ron Lemonade, your Beef Extension Specialist at Purdue University Department of Animal Science. One of the aspects of getting ready to work cattle is to walk through where the animals are going to be. All right, so this is a single file alley. This one happens to be a curved alley that takes advantage of the psychology that animals like to go back in the direction from which they came. So the cattle in this facility are coming in this direction, and they're going around and they're exiting in that direction. Okay, so they're going back in the direction from which they came. As you prepare to work animals, you really need to walk through where the animals will be. All right, make sure that there are no rough edges, no nails sticking out, no obstructions, no styrofoam cups on the floor, napkins, handkerchiefs, jackets flopping in the breeze, okay? Anything that would be out of the ordinary from the standpoint of the animal's view of where they're going to move. And, you know, a styrofoam cup on the floor could be enough for a set of animals to balk. All right, and so you wonder why the animals aren't moving. It's because we've got an obstacle in their way, and animals don't see quite the same way we do. All right, so they basically have to put their head almost all the way down on the ground to be able to focus on what that particular object is. All right, so even things like shadows, okay, can keep animals from moving forward, okay, or what we call balking. All right, because of the difference in light contrast between one side of the shadow and the open side of the shadow. So walk your facilities, make sure that the lighting is consistent, that there are no obstacles on the sides of the chute or on the floor of the chute that can either cause animal injury or cause animals to balk. As we begin the process of handling cattle, we're going to be bringing them down some kind of an alleyway into what this facility has is what we call a crowding tub. All right, the crowding tub. Okay, once we get animals in here, and we don't want to overpopulate this area. All right, so when you think about square footage and how many animals could be squeezed in here, you need to think about half that number. What we have is cleats alongside the tub, all right? And these provide safety from the standpoint of animal pressure against this gate, okay? So this one is already attached to the first cleat. Notice that if the animals push on that and I'm on the other side, I'm safe. If this was open and animals start to mill around, okay, and I'm on the other side of the gate, and animals push against this gate, and they do that rapidly, what can happen is my feet can get caught underneath the bottom of the gate, and the gate's going to go over the top of me. All right? So these cleats, okay, as this gate comes forward, so now it's latched in this position. Now it's latched in this position, and so forth and so on until we get the animals all going down the center, the single file alley. And then typically where the tub and the single file alley intersect, there's usually a drop gate or a slide gate that we would put so that the animals don't back up into this area, which now gives me an opportunity. One of the first things that we need to think about before we start handling cattle is to get your equipment in order. Make sure that you've got good maintenance on your equipment. And as an example, all right, if you can see this, all right, this bolt is loose. This bolt needs to be tightened, all right? Back here, if you can see this movement, it's really, I mean, I can move it, but I can't move it easily, all right? This needs to be lubricated. And other places where we've got friction, all right, that we need the equipment to work freely, All right, so that's number one. Number two, you need to make sure that you have all of your supplies that you're going to use for that day, whether it be vaccines or antibiotics or needles and syringes and AI equipment and dewormers and branding irons and all those things have got to be prepared for and ready so that whenever we bring animals in, animals are not standing here, okay, under stress any longer than they absolutely have to have. All right, so make sure that you've got good equipment, it's in good repair, and you've got all of the supplies necessary for that day's activities. Now, as animals approach the squeeze chute, some of them have a tailgate, and I'll show you how that works here in just a second. But this tailgate really prevents the second animal from crowding into the first animal's space. All right, so we'd like to close that. The next feature of a chute is a palpation gauge. All right, and I would highly recommend any producer that has a squeeze chute also has a palpation cage on the back of it. All right, what it does is it allows you to get access to the back of the animal if you want to take a blood sample, for example, from the tail vein, or you want to do an artificial insemination, or you want to do a preg check, or you want to castrate bull calves. All right, this access is really a handy feature. From a safety perspective, make sure that these gates are latched. All right, and there's different latch mechanisms on different chutes, but make sure that it's latched. The other thing that's really nice about most palpation cages is that I can actually open this gate and lock it to prevent the second animal from coming forward when I'm in here trying to palpate a cow or castrate a bull calf. I don't want that next animal to be breathing over my shoulder. All right, so a couple of safety features is make sure that this is latched correctly and secure, all right, when animals are entering, all right, and then once an animal gets head gated, okay, you can actually close this and it gives you some safe space to work. All right, so now the animal moves forward, okay, and ideally this kind of works best if you've got two people. All right, somebody that can kind of move animals forward, work back here, and there would be a second person maybe manning the head gate. And from an animal flow standpoint, it's really nice if one animal goes out and the next animal is following it, okay? So it's kind of a leader-follower kind of a situation. Hard to do when you're doing this by yourself and be in two places. Some squeeze chutes will actually have the head gate mechanism be able to be controlled from the back of the chute, all right? This one is not set up that way. This one has the head gate only operated right here, all right? Now, from a head gate standpoint, you want to open that head gate wide enough that it encourages the animal to come forward, but ideally, you'd like for it to not be so open that whenever the animal comes forward, it kind of catches its shoulders, all right? It gives you more reaction time. I really like this head gate from the standpoint, if you can look at how this is designed, this has a ratchet mechanism, okay? So I refer to that as a positive latch, okay? It can't pop open, all right? Okay, every time I tighten it, all right, it is in a positive latch situation. And I want to get that so that it's on the neck of the animal without having too much pressure on the animal's neck, all right? So I don't want the animal to be able to back out. I want it to be able to catch behind its ears, all right? But the shoulders then keep it from going too far forward. The next thing that I'm going to do is this particular chute has a squeeze mechanism, okay, or what some people call a crush, all right? This one is done by chain, all right? And it works very, very well, all right? And so I can bring it, okay, and tighten the animal down. And basically what that does is it helps the animal become secure, all right? It can't move around very much. It's still comfortable. The good thing about a manual chute is that I can't put too much pressure on the animal. If I was using a hydraulic chute, I theoretically could put too much pressure on the animal. Pretty hard to do if you're doing this manually. Now, one of the challenges from a safety standpoint is that if the animal is in there, you've got pressure on this, okay, so the animal's inside, there's pressure on these gates, these outside gates. If I go like this and the animal moves, all right, I can run my hand right through this and take my finger off. All right, so you always hold on to the handle when you're making this go. All right, very important piece, right? The other thing that I would suggest is that from a safety perspective is that some chutes are designed with a brisket bar. All right, and basically the animal walks across, okay, so the bar comes up in the middle of the chute, okay, on the floor, and it basically keeps the animal from going down. All right, some animals, you get in here, they want to kneel down on their front end, and so now if you're trying to preg check or palpate a cow, you're trying to do it down on an angle. All right, the brisket bar keeps the cattle up. All right, pretty nice feature. Okay, both safety for the animal's perspective and from the human side perspective. Another safety feature of the squeeze chute is that if you look along the floor, notice that there are rods. Okay, that could be slats of metal, it could be slats of wood, whatever, but those slats down here, okay, these bars, help the animal feel secure and prevent them from sliding and slipping, okay, in the squeeze chute. So that's an important feature. Again, make sure that those are in good repair before we start. Here's a brisket bar, all right? This one happens to be removable, okay? So if you're running, for example, baby calves and this is too tall, you could take it out. But if you're running cows and you're doing a preg check, okay, or you're trying to AI, the brisket bar is really a nice feature from the standpoint of keeping the animal from going down. For some of our management practices, we have to work with the head. For example, putting in an ear tag, or maybe placement of an implant, or maybe using a tattoo. And so animal head movement becomes an issue. Okay, from a safety standpoint, if you look at the way this head gate is designed, it has parallel bars. All right, there's others that have a wide opening space, okay, coming down the length, okay, where it actually holds the animal's neck a little bit more secure. This one happens to be parallel bars. I like it because animals, if they go down in the chute, they don't choke. All right, so I do like the parallel bars, but the disadvantage is that I have a tremendous amount of up and down head movement. So there are times that I want to use a halter. And if you're going to put a halter on an animal, all right, you do not want to stand in front of the halter. You want to stand over to the side, all right, and be able to slip the halter underneath the animal's nose and over the ears because of this up and down movement, and there is a little bit of side movement as well. So you've got to be careful that an animal doesn't come up with their head while you're trying to put the halter on and get smashed in the chin, nose, face, right? So once we get the animal haltered, all right, many of the chutes have a cleat over here on the side. So what it allows me to do is to be able to bring the animal's head over, okay? And basically what you do is you do this in a circle 8, okay? And then take the rope, twist it, and bring it down on itself, all right? And that becomes now very, very secure, all right? So again, once the animal is head gated, you get the halter on and you do it from the side. You bring this over, you do a circle 8, and then you can take the rope, basically twist it and create a loop, put it over the hook and pull it tight. All right, and that will then secure the animal's neck over. For example, if you want to take a jugular blood sample, you want to put an ear tag, you want to put an implant, and obviously you can move the animal's head to one side of the chute or to the other depending on which side of the head you want to work on. Another little technique that we sometimes use when we're working animals and from a safety standpoint, remember we talked about this up and down head movement in a parallel bar situation. Okay, if you've got a cleat over here on the far side of the chute, you can hang basically a halter that's been condensed down. All right, stick that on that loop. Animal's head is in, and we want to restrain the animal from going up and down as much. All right, so what we can do is we can bring that underneath the animal's head. Okay, come to this cleat, and again create a circle 8 with a twist, and now you've got the animal's head held up. All right, and for some procedures that becomes an important feature. Another safety aspect that becomes really, really important, all right, is that you never want, when an animal is in here, you never want to put your hand inside this chute, okay, above the animal's head, because if the animal comes up, guess what? Your arm is in there, you're either going to get a broken hand or a broken arm, all right? The same thing is true whenever you're working on the side, all right? You've got to be very careful. Most of the chutes are designed today, okay, the newer models, where there's a space between the head gate and the chute itself, all right? That gives you an opportunity to be able to go in and give either a subcutaneous or an intermuscular injection in the neck, which then follows beef quality assurance guidelines. All of our injections, okay, are given in the neck, in front of the shoulder. There's a triangle, all right, and having this space between the head gate and the chute gives you access to that neck without having to be able to go in through the bars, okay, and an animal move and crush your hand or create an injection that you don't want. So if the vaccine or the antibiotic says go sub-Q, we do it sub-Q. If it says that it's to be administered IM, then we do it IM. And there are other guidelines that go beyond the scope of this video that could be discussed in that arena. Another important aspect of animal safety, and quite honestly human safety as well, is that when animals come out of the chute, they need to have footing. Some of these animals are going to come out and they're going to just walk out. Some of them are going to come out at a little bit faster pace, all right? And the floor surface in front of the chute becomes critical in terms of animal safety. And so here's an example, okay, of something that could be put in front of the chute that gives the animal traction, all right, instead of a smooth concrete surface. A roughened concrete surface would work. There's different kinds of mats, okay, that could be put there. In some cases, it may be gravel, all right, that would give the animal footing, all right? But the point is, they need to have good footing as they exit the chute. When handling cattle from a safety standpoint, both from an animal and a human perspective, good equipment is important. It doesn't have to be expensive, but it needs to be good equipment, okay, that's sturdy, that's easy to maneuver and work and operate, and it needs to be quiet, all right, because animals, particularly cattle, can hear at different levels than we can as humans. And so loud noises, creaking, cracking, okay, slamming, banging, okay, can frighten animals and make them much more unpredictable in how they're gonna react to management practices. So having good facilities, all right, having a good head gate is really an important feature. Okay, whether it's got a squeeze mechanism or a crush mechanism is probably less important, all right, but a good head gate, having access to a palpation cage is whether it's in a homemade system, okay, or it's in a commercially available system, okay, doesn't make any difference. But having a palpation cage where you can go in and you can work behind an animal, keep the next animal in line off of your back, all right, is really, really, really important. And then, you know, low stress animal handling techniques are really go together with a good set of animal handling facilities.